Yo dudes, welcome to epic one pan tray bakes. This time of year, it's now November here in Ireland. It's got cold, it's got darker. Everyone wants comforting foods like a belly hug. The days of watermelon salad have kind of passed. So these are two recipes that where the oven does the majority of the work. They present beautifully, they go at the center of the table, they're wonderful shared, and they just genuinely taste like a belly hug. They're so worth trying. So the first one we're gonna make is a crispy cabbage chickpea curry tray bake. It's incredibly tasty, and the idea of crispy cabbage might sound like, you'd be amazed at how tasty it genuinely is. Next one we're gonna make is a mushroom bourguignon served with quick-fire polenta. Both incredibly delicious, well worth trying, and they both take 20 to 25 minutes to make, so not a huge amount of time, and yet the result is this beautiful shared family or friends dinner that just goes so well. Okay, first step. We have one leek which we have chopped into 1 centimeter rounds. I gave it a good rinse because often kind of sediment can hide in there, and pop it into our tray. In on top of that, a nice generous pinch of salt and half a tablespoon of oil. Take a spoon and just give it a nice mix. We've preheated our oven to 200 degrees Celsius. I'm going to bake this for 10 minutes while I cook my cabbage. Okay, cabbage many people can think is bland, but when it's charred and fried, it releases its magnificence. So I've got a non-stick pan on medium heat. In on top of that, I'm putting 1 tablespoon of oil. Let's chop our cabbage into quarters. Make sure to leave the kind of heel on here that's going to hold it all together. Really important here, we want to pop them in the pan and leave them sit as they are for 3 to 4 minutes to encourage charring. Important step here, just add a generous pinch of salt. It'll just help kind of soften that cabbage. Okay, so while you're cooking the cabbage, be patient, try not to be premature and check that it's done. Just leave it sit. While that's happening, I'm putting in 1 tablespoon of tamari in here. If you don't have tamari, just use soy sauce. And then I have 3 to 4 tablespoons of water. Might seem like lots, don't worry. This is kind of to add a bit of kind of color to our tamari, or to our cabbage. Okay, it's been 3 to 4 minutes. Time to have a look and check in on our cabbage. So it should have nicely charred. Oh, look at that for lovely. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pour this tamari mixture just over the top. It's gonna help just char it and give that beautiful color. Okay, so while the cabbage is just finishing off, it's been about 3 minutes there. I'm gonna just turn it off the heat and just allow that kind of sauce to evaporate. Time to take out our leeks. Okay, this is fun. We're gonna just literally bring this dish together in the pan. So into the pan, I have 1 tin of chickpeas. I've drained and rinsed them. Next step, I have 1 tin of chopped tomatoes. That's 400 grams or 400 ml. And that goes. I've got 1 tin of coconut milk. And that goes. So time to add in our spices. So I have 2 tablespoons of curry powder. I've got half a teaspoon of ground coriander and half a teaspoon of chili powder. In it goes. I've got 1 cinnamon quill. In that goes. And I have a nice generous pinch of salt, approximately 3/4 of a teaspoon. And just give it a nice mix. So this is going to be the base with which our cabbage is going to go on top of. Okay, let's take our cabbage and bring this dish together. So just take your cabbage off, just carefully wanting to hold it together. Land it down. So don't waste any flavor, just the remaining bit of sauce, just pop it in, it will evaporate. It's just gonna add that wonderful umami note through this dish. Take out your big oven glove, and we're gonna bake that in the oven for about 10-15 minutes. For our second dish, we're gonna cook an incredibly tasty mushroom bourguignon. So using a bit of red wine, mushrooms, gravy, it's so rich, it's so tasty. And we serve it with polenta, so ground cornmeal kind of paste, which is beautiful. Okay, this will take about 25 minutes to cook, and the 1 pan we are using is a saucepan. Okay, into our pan, we're gonna allow our pan to heat up. I'm gonna put on 1 tablespoon of oil. While that's starting to heat up, I'm gonna take our mushrooms. So I have some oyster mushrooms, and I'm gonna just rip them up into long strips. So it's 200 grams of oyster mushrooms. If you don't have oyster, you could use chestnut, shiitake, maitake, lion's mane, any of those. But I think if you can get oyster mushrooms, they're just so good. So I have 1 can of jackfruit. I drained it, I rinsed it, and I chopped up any kind of the thicker seeds or seed pods. So this is kind of ready to go. Once our pan is nice and hot, we're gonna pop in our jackfruit. and our oyster mushrooms. So we're going to fry these until they stop to sizzle. At the moment they're sizzling largely due to the moisture content in the jackfruit. So just keep moving around the pan a little bit. Don't worry too much. We want the water to evaporate so they do start to caramelize and go through what's known as the Maillard reaction. So while our mushrooms and jackfruit are frying down, I'm just going to prep our veg. So I have 2 medium-sized onions. I'm going to chop these into 8s. So chop them into half, and then half the half, and then half the half again. Try to keep them in large pieces like that. It just looks really cool. Wait till you see at the end. So again, half the half, half the half. That'll give us natural 8. And then we have 1 medium carrot, which we chopped into a nice small kind of dice. And then lastly, we just prepped 2 cloves of garlic. Okay, so our mushrooms and jackfruit have kind of slowly stopped to sizzle now, and they are starting to char around the edges. Time to add in 2 tablespoons of tamari. So mushrooms and tamari are a match made in heaven. If you don't have tamari, you could use soya sauce or coconut aminos if you're allergic to soy. I'm going to put in a little pinch of black pepper also. Okay, once we've distributed the tamari nicely and they're all starting to look kind of brown and grizzly and just carriers of that wonderful umami flavor, time to add in our veg. So I've got 1 carrot which we've diced nice and finely, and I have our onions. Just be careful with the onions, we don't want them to kind of break up. I'm gonna just pop them into the pan. Okay, in on top of that I'm adding a generous pinch of salt. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put the lid on and allow them to steam. Allow the moisture that's coming up from them just to steam and allow them to cook for about 8 minutes. So remove it and just check in on it. If it does start to stick, just add a little small amount of the veg stock just to deglaze the pan and just to get it moving around. Just only a little small amount. I'm gonna pop the lid back on and just continue to cook. Okay, so we've allowed it cook for approximately 8 minutes. Remove the lid. Oh, I love that. So it is starting to look nice and fleshy, the jackfruit and the mushrooms. The onions are starting to look soft, they're starting to brown around the edges. Time to add in our garlic. So I got 2 cloves of garlic, which I'm adding into the pan. And I've our thyme. So I have 4 sprigs of thyme. So obviously the stalk of the thyme is too firm. We don't want that in, so just take the leaves off and pop them into the pan. Okay, just give that a nice mix through. And just give the garlic a minute or so just to allow it to cook through. With the garlic, we don't want to overcook it and it starts to go bitter, but we do want it to cook through just to allow those flavors just to pervade this dish. Okay, now for the exciting bit. We have 200 ml of red wine. Time to add this in and make it more exciting. You ready? It's always a great sizzle. So what we want is about half of this red wine to evaporate, but we really do want those flavors just to mix in. So don't worry, the alcohol will evaporate. It's just that sweet kind of acidic flavor which we really want in this dish. Okay, now that our wine has largely evaporated, you'll see it just starting to go into this kind of nice syrup. It's time to bring this dish together. 3 tablespoons of tomato puree into the pan. I've got a remaining veg stock, so it was 200 ml when we started out. It's now 150 ml after putting some in. And then I've got 1 tin of chopped tomatoes. That's 400 ml of chopped tomatoes. I'm going to put a nice pinch of salt in here. And we're going to allow this to just the flavors to boil and come together and reduce for a further kind of 5 to 10 minutes. So I've allowed this to reduce and just kind of flavors come together for approximately 10 minutes. When I do try to taste ever so slightly acidic, so I'm going to put in about half a tablespoon of maple syrup. I'm not traditionally a Burgundy, but I just think it goes fabulously. Just a small amount. Just offsets that acidity beautifully. Okay, so while we were frying or reducing this sauce, we actually cooked our polenta. We just cooked instant polenta. It literally took 8 minutes from start to finish. And I put in a saucepan like this. I'm just gonna create a nice divot in the middle with which we're gonna put our bourguignon. And this is such a beautiful way to serve this dish. So the dish from start to finish takes about 25, possibly 30 minutes if you're taking your time. So you'll see the onions have caramelized beautifully and they're soft. And I always think just a nice way to serve it is just a few sprigs of thyme on the top. Et voila. There is a super, incredibly tasty, comforting mushroom bourguignon with polenta. And for our second dish in this epic 1-pan dinner series, this is our crispy cabbage curry. Et voila. Very tasty, very beautiful. The cabbage, you'll be surprised, it serves so well. I'm not sure what you'd go for. Geez, this is hard. Just to show you the Burgundy and just how beautiful it serves. So, there's a big chunk of it there with the polenta. Oh, that's hot. Such rich flavour, such balance, such like umami, nice grizzle, sweetness of the carrot and the onion. Like, it's just, I love that dish. This dish here that literally took 20 minutes again. The curry itself, surprisingly really, really tasty just for such a simple curry. And cabbage, many people think cabbage can be bland and boring, but even if I just, oh my God, the leaves are like soft, succulent, beautiful. It is a little hot. Really tasty. Like, these are such perfect examples of like warm, comforting soul food. Like the cabbage, it really is a winter hardy vegetable, and when it's cooked this way, it's magnificent. Like when you cut it, it's soft to the touch, it's crispy, it's umami, it's magnificent. Anyway, let us know down below which of these dishes you would prefer, because both are exquisite. Thank you for watching. If you do want to learn how to cook, we have our vegan chef course and our vegan professional chef course. Do check them out, and thanks for being a part of this channel. We love it. Lots of love. Bye.